The layout module is the place where we open up Adobe InDesign documents and work with Adobe InDesign documents. The graphics processing server underneath our system is Adobe InDesign server. So as a component of our system, we have at the base level Adobe InDesign. So we can open up natively Adobe InDesign jobs. And this is really how part of the very powerful part of the system is that the people in the product management part of a company, like the people who buy the clothes, the people who are the product managers, they are not designers, but they very much have to interface with the people who are creating the catalog or creating the website or creating the mobile application. They need to be very intimate. And this tool here is the tool to help them do that effectively. Okay, so now if you notice on the left side again, we have the exact database. This is the same database that we've been working with all along. And I am going to be able to navigate into my projects that I have for Illusion. And you can see here I made 3 projects for you. I'm going to open up this one by dragging it here to the center. And so now we're opening this Adobe InDesign. These are the files and pages that Luis sent to me. And what we did is we brought them in, loaded them into the asset management part of the system. We took them into the database, and we built together which pictures went with which text, went with which pages. And now what I'm going to show you is how all of this comes together into a production where the graphics person works coordinated with the product manager. Because most product managers do not know InDesign. So they have to tell the graphics person all their information, and then the graphics person has to enter it into InDesign. But now, using our system, we are having the people in design only design parts of the job. I have opened up here a spread that shows you what this means. Here on this page, all we have are master page elements, okay? Things that are common on every page, like the little sidebar. We have page number. These are the items that are on the master page. So a master page template is one thing that the system needs. The second thing that the system will use is what we call a grid. The grid shows the placement of the elements on the page. And obviously not every page is going to be placed exactly the same, because here we have full page for an article. Notice here on this side we have a article going on half the page vertically, and then here in the catalog we had 2 articles going in 1/4 page. So we created master pages and grid templates to cover how layout was done throughout the book. So, and on this particular spread we have put the appropriate grid. We have also gotten, this is really where the database link happens. This is called the single asset. This is where the styles and positioning and what database elements need to be associated with which images. This is where this is happening. This is the variable data part. Like if you're doing any variable data work right now, this would be very similar. Creating the single asset is very similar to the database work that you do in variable data printing. So those are the 3 types of templates that we have to have from InDesign in order to build a page here in our system. But once we have these elements, which I'm going to turn off the single asset, once we have these elements, we can now, with someone who basically has no experience in Adobe InDesign, they can very much work with their pages. So for example, on this 2-page spread, we are highlighting 2 products. Product number 7219 is one of the products. I can do a search and the search bar here, and it will find all of the articles that are for this article number. Or if I do not want to do it this way, I could also just navigate through the database here, and I could look visually, and then it shows me the images, and then I could pick the image and drag it onto the database. For me, I know what I'm looking for. I know the number. I think it's much easier for me in this case to just say, okay, I want this particular article. I know that this article is going to be featured here, and then there is going to be additional information about this article on this inset box. So I drag the article into both locations. Okay, I know that on this page, I'm going to be displaying article number 3770. So now I search for this article. I find this article. I am dragging this article to here. And then this inset box here is the feature about this article. Okay, so now I am going to turn off my grid, placement grid, and you see the database has got the appropriate image that should be used when we're using a quarter size feature. It has got the appropriate text. It's got the colors, all from the database through using the single asset. Here on this page, it picked up a different picture because it knows for the full page feature, we're using a different image. We're not using these smaller details. We're using pictures with backgrounds and so forth. So all of this was defined in our database prior. And so all the right images are being selected when you place the article into the grid. From this point of view, really it's from the product manager's work. He has assigned all the elements that go to the page. Now what he could say is he could go to his status area and say, okay, I can move it from the working status to now this is ready to have the design finalized. So now what would go to the designer would be a document that has all the right elements in place, that just needs to have the final tweaks done in design to make it look very nice. Keep in mind, we do have some simple tools here in the toolbar that give us the ability to manipulate some of this data ourselves. I'll give you an example. Let me zoom up here. Okay, let's say we wanted to do some text editing. We are in the live database here. So when I click on this box and I select this price and I say, let's make this price 79. I'm going to make this price change to 79. Notice I get this little green checkbox here. When I say, okay, I click this checkbox, it asks me, do you want to save these values to the master data? This is going to save this information into the database. Okay, the power of this is that this same database is used to drive content to, let's say, the website of it. The same database is used to drive content to their application that they have on iPad. So by making a change here in the database centrally, immediately all of this other content is updated without anyone else having to do any additional work. That's very powerful. If we only want to make the change here for the print catalog, of course, we would say, no, do not save that to the master database. So the database will not be changed. Only the content of what we have here on our document will change. Again, let me show you a couple of other things that are capable of being done here in our system. You could, like say for example, you wanted to, we know this image needs to be bigger. Instead of letting the designer do it, there's simple tools here where I could do it. I could zoom up and say, well, this image is actually going to fit in this box something like this. Okay, and then I could say, okay. And so now, you know, I've used basic little toolbar. I don't know InDesign myself, and I'm able to do some small edits. I can, you know, like let's say for an example, I wanted to resize this image here and get it into the right place. I just click on it, get my sizing tool, move it into the spot I'm thinking, and if I want to make this smaller, I can make it smaller. Whatever needs to be done. If I wanted to turn, I can do these things. So you can do some simple editing here, but obviously most of the design community is going to be more comfortable working in InDesign, but the people who they're interfacing with, the product managers who are the corporate level people, they are probably not comfortable doing those things in InDesign, but they need very much to get their information quickly to, they need to collaborate. So this tool is really a collaboration tool for those two types of people, and it's all done online. Okay, some other ways that that we can collaborate together would be, I'm just going to leave that, but we have the ability to put notes on. So we could put notes on and type notes to each other. Please retouch this image. Save. Okay. We also have the ability to do a preview of these pages before we commit to, before we do that, let me show you. I mentioned to you before the English and the translation. Let me show you this feature here, translate. We come over here to translate. We know that our basic language here is Spanish, but let's say that in this case, I want to work in InDesign on my Spanish and my English here at the same time. I can click English layer, I can say translate. So now it's going into the database and it's getting all of my English and it's bringing it in. What it's done is it has created a layer. Now see, we have our Spanish information here, and now it added this whole layer here for English. So any information, if there are special images for English, they would bring the special English images in. If there are special texts for English, they bring this in. Let me show you one thing that I know is different. For example, the price. Before we were with the peso, and now here on the English layer, we are with the English dollar. So the same database is driving both, but we have different content because of the language layer. That's a very nice tool.